Good morning, everybody. It's cold, windy, Cambridge, Ontario, snow blowing. That's Canada. I want to talk about yesterday, and I've tagged Dr. Richard Albert, a friend of mine from the state of Texas, director of law, and he did a presentation live yesterday. I was invited to that Zoom. Academics from all over the world, a large number of participants. I got to ask a question and I got to be a part of that. And Richard, you answered me, and I want to get into the details of why I state the UNSC P5, why it would be paramount for them to complete that along with the UN General Assembly, but to lay out binding power of such a court worldwide, and what are the benefits of that. Won't be a long video. It's the idea that if we had a world constitution and international law binding for every nation, we could go revisit the UN Charter, utilize all international binding laws, and make that applicable to every country. As we see in the world today, not all nations, as listed in the UN Charter, really gives absolute sovereignty to each state. I can tell you, just as a Commonwealth country, Canada, we have constituted no national sovereignty. We're based off the UK model. Forever and a day, we give our national sovereignty to the United Kingdom. Now, people talk about Westminster, they talk about 1982, that particular amendment of all 13 constitutional amendments throughout Canada's history, and there's a lot of key dates there, folks. It's all consolidated into one document. But Canada, like every Commonwealth nation, has now and forever, since 2012, given that power of international law and international narrative to the United Kingdom. Specifically, now King Charles III. It was his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, before him, who was instrumental as a prince in drafting many laws. Many laws from 1993 that a lot of people aren't very happy with. They call it the corruption of the UN, especially the General Assembly, because now these UN states, these 54 in a voting bloc, do whatever the royal family deems to be done. That's what happens. There's all kinds of voting blocs corrupted in the UN, not in that exact way, but in similar ways. And it creates a problem because it's against the UN Charter. It's against the United Nations Security Council, 5 permanent members binding world laws. In fact, it's because of this corruption of the UN, and even in the UNSC, so to speak, that we see the UN faltering. We saw monumental achievements, folks, for many decades. Then we start to see a decline in the 90s through till today. A lot of people say, oh, this is new world order. Well, sadly, it's old world order. It was the problematic design of the League of Nations under one power, the United Kingdom, who gave some of the crown colonial access powers extreme powers as well too. It saw colonialism go further. Contrary to what everybody talks about, all human rights we have today, all civil rights, were given to us by the glorious allies of World War II. And in fact, 2 of those allies, as we know, USA and Russia, were instrumental becoming world powers post-World War II and making those a reality. Before 1945, you were extremely hard-pressed to find any human rights worldwide bound in any real laws. Now, the League did bring forward some, sure, but it's very few and far between, and it's in class structure. First, second, third class. Anything else, anyone narrating anything, you won't find any historical actual factual things to present with that. That's the end of my video for today, folks. Richard, that's why I'm getting at that. That's why I say the P5. Get it shared out, folks. Share, share, share. It's important. I will be presenting to the UNSC P5 on that topic. Thanks. Time to go to work. Bye now.